Okay, I'm Dustin. I just talked to you all. I'm going to talk about a project that I've been working on for about 6 months. It's got around 200 people watching it on GitHub, but I think it's really useful, so I want to tell you about it, and maybe you'll use it or contribute to it. It's called Summon, and I'll get into what it is. I'm Dustin. I'm the developer advocate at Conjure. We do security for automation. I organize this meetup. I write about things at dustinrcollins.com, and there's my Twitter. So, before I get into talking specifically about Summon, I want to talk about secrets and source control, and why it's a problem. But let's start with why it's not a problem. It's really easy, right? You put your secrets in your source code. You don't have to worry about moving them around. You don't have to worry about tracking the changes to them. The problem is that it gives you really weak access control. Anyone that has access to your GitHub repository has access to your secrets. The thing that's often forgotten is that it also makes your workflows harder. Let's say someone wants to rotate a secret for one of your applications. You have to redeploy your application. It's not very efficient. And you can also, you end up in this position where you have to go through your project and remove all the secrets if you want to open source it or make it more generic. So that's why secrets in source control are bad. The secrets not in source control are also not great. It does give you better access control. You can open source your projects if you want, but you stop tracking your secrets in source control. Your secrets are often dependencies of your project. So if you're not tracking them, you have all these implicit dependencies. You're saying, in DevOps, we want to say everything, we can take this source code and create whatever we need out of it. But once we start taking our secrets out, it's like, well, and then we have to think about this, just trust us, they'll get there when we deploy it. Rotation requires coordination now, and you need a separate system for storage, so your infrastructure gets more complex. There's sort of a middle line here between secrets in and secrets not in source control, and that's encrypting your secrets and putting them in source control. But I don't really see that as a solution, because you're just creating another problem. Like when you solve a problem, creating another problem out of it isn't very satisfying. The problem is that you've just now created another secret. Now you have a decryption key. So what are you going to do with it? Past that, it might work for a small shop, but it often gets very hard to maintain. So you end up with all these different permutations of secrets for your different applications and infrastructure. And what do people start doing? They start just bundling them all together, because they don't want to mess with rotating the keys, getting the keys to the right place. So they'll just say things like, here's our decryption key for development, here's our decryption key for prod. And then you have weak access control. It doesn't really fix the problem. So I wrote Summon. So I think a good answer to this is to check references to your secrets into source control, paths where they can be retrieved from. So Summon is a command line tool that you list out the references to your secrets. It resolves them into the secrets given a pluggable provider, and then it injects those secrets as environment variables into any process you want. So going over it a little bit, there's an open format secrets.yaml. So we can see here, this is a mapping of environment variables to paths where secrets are stored. Is that big enough? Can you see it back there?
Yep.
Okay. So at the top we have a couple access keys, and then the paths where they're stored. So you can see here we're also doing interpolation. So environment is actually a variable, so you don't have to have a different secrets.yaml file for each of your environment. You can pass it in on the command line. It'll stick it in there and pull the right secret. We have literals. The region is a literal. That's not a secret. That's fine. You could make it a parameter if you wanted. The last one is actually pretty interesting. So one of the things that Summon does is you use it by prefixing a command you already run with Summon, and then it'll do all this stuff, stick them in your environment. But when the process you're wrapping exits, the secrets are gone. They're not left on your file system. And so the top two keys are just strings. So the strings are gone. But the SSL certificate is actually a file. So what Summon will do is talk to your provider, resolve the secret into a memory mapped file, the value here is the path to that memory mapped file, and then it's gone. That memory mapped file is gone when the process exits. I'll have examples if this is a little confusing. And so when I was writing this, one of the things I really wanted to do was allow pluggable providers. These are the systems that resolve your secrets for you. So this could be something like Conjure, HashiCorp Vault, S3, whatever you're putting your secrets in, even if it's a custom thing you've built in-house. And so the providers have a really simple contact. You give them a path, they either give you back the secret on standard out, or they return an error on standard error. They could be written in any language. So I've written a few providers already. It would be really great to have someone else write some providers too. The command line, so I wrote this in Go because I didn't want to have any dependencies. It's a binary. I'm building them for OS X, Linux, and Windows right now, but we can build whatever we want. And the process, so the process that you can route the summon is any process that accepts environment variables. And especially with DevOps tooling, most of them accept environment variables as configuration. We're talking sort of 12-factor out. So here's some examples. I use this every day for all the tools I use, so I'm just going to list out the ways that I use it, but really anything that accepts environment variables. So I run Docker with summon. You can see here I've passed the -d flag to resolve environment into dev, and then I've created some sort of Docker magic here where you write summon end file. It will create a memory mapped file in the Docker end file format with your secrets mappings in it, and pass it into Docker. When your container exits, the file is gone. I use it with Chef because I really hate working with the database API. So now in my recipes I can just prefix them with summon, and then it's just the Ruby env to pass the thing in the environment variable. I use it with Test Kitchen. Test Kitchen, you can resolve environment variables for different attributes for your different tools. You can see here again I'm using the var file for the Jenkins private key, passing it in. I use it with Postgres. I found this out the other day, that Postgres, if you set the PG password environment variable, it'll read that. I use it with Terraform. As long as you prefix with this tf var, it'll resolve these secrets into these variables you find in your templates. And I use it with Ansible. In this example, I am resolving the private key that I use the SSH in machines into a memory mapped file. You can run your playbooks. The file is gone once your playbook exits. So the thing here to remember is that summon does not solve authentication or authorization. That's up to the provider. So if you have an S3 provider, you'll probably do something like IAM instance roles. If you're using Conjure, you use machine identity. If you're using Vault, you would use the app ID token. So if you want to contribute, you could just use summon and let me know what you think. You could write a new provider, or you can open pull requests on the core of summon. Thanks. Any questions?
Yeah, this looks really interesting because I'm dealing with a semi-insane environment where one of my predecessors, I will say, has done some cool stuff in the sense that they're encrypting like DB passwords and stuff in a DBC file, and then they're having a automation library run and decrypt those files, so you can reference that the encrypted variable and it will pull them out. But the problem then is they have a OA print environment which shows all the decrypted environment variables. How does this protect against anything being exposed either in the history or the command line?
So the secrets are actually only injected into the sub-process environment. They're not leaked out to the whole system. There's always the case in security where if somebody gets root on your machine, That's
Yeah.
I usually say work on your SSH access in that case. Something interesting I've done with Summon is that for our local Jenkins infrastructure, what I'm doing is assigning temporary machine identity on a job by job basis. And one of the Summon providers can read that, so we'll use that to fetch the secrets it needs. The identity is thrown away when the build completes, and the secrets are also rotated.
So if someone was to ask what's the advantage of this over just using something like Ansible Vault, if you're an Ansible shop?
I think Ansible Vault has the problem I talked about before, where you're encrypting things into source control.
Yeah.
Chef Vault has the same problem. It's just, it might work for a smaller shop,
Yeah.
but every time you try to get more than like 4 applications, and you have some applications that need the same secrets, some need different ones, this isn't very fun work, so people just start bundling their secrets together,
I
and
see.
then,
Yeah.
you have an audit, and everybody's pissed off at you.
Yeah.
So where are the providers? Because the main thing doesn't seem to happen.
Yeah, so the providers are all in different repos. Basically, all a provider needs to be is a file you can call. I've got Bash providers, Go providers, some Python providers. It just needs to be something you can put. There's a default path for providers, so if you only have one, it'll call that by default. Otherwise, you just point it to a file.
Zip file is an executable, and it should return.
Yep. All right, thank you.